Hello, everybody. We have gotten together today. We're going to make a podcast. We're going to call this one the Crab Shack. So, welcome to the Crab Shack. I am Fish, and this is Hive. Hive, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Hive. Been playing Path for 12 plus years now. Quite a bit of experience, and yeah, looking to throw some of my thought process out there and have a good podcast.
Great. So, we're getting together to talk a little bit about the builds that you can do coming up on this league. There were not a whole lot of changes, but enough to shake up the meta a little bit. And there are hundreds of builds that you can tackle basically the entire game with. And so the game is very balanced in its current state. And we'd like to just go over some of the ones we think are going to succeed.
I mean, definitely played quite a few builds myself last league. A lot of experience with our guild, the Cult of Crab. A lot of people prefer different types of play styles, and we've seen all kinds of builds come out of this last league. And the league before that, given that there haven't been as many changes for multiple leagues. Um, in that sense, I mean, my top pick. I mean, it's not going to be the one I'm starting with, but for the Marauder Juggernaut, Righteous Fire. Hawks has kicked this one straight out. Knocked it out of the park multiple times. Strong build. It's capable of doing just about everything. Doesn't quite excel at everything, but can actually do it over the course of time. It's a damage over time build. Um, it's got high highs, and it's capable of starting right at the start of the league. I mean, you can throw money at this thing the whole league until you get it into a crazy state.
I
Um,
I have to agree. Righteous Fire is one of those builds that can just keep going and keep going, and you can tackle everything with it. It's definitely one of my top picks. League starting every league. I think I've played Righteous Fire in every league for at least the last 10 leagues in a row. And one of the great things about it is you can go all kinds of different ascendancies with it.
is correct. I mean, Inquisitor was a really strong choice. Personally, I played the Inquisitor and then I swapped back over to the Juggernaut on another character just to kind of see the difference of them. This league, I'm thinking even Chieftain might be a acceptable choice on it. Not so much, I would think, for league start. I want people to kind of work out the kinks in that one because of how Chieftain's rework has been done. But yeah, I agree. It can be done on multiple sentences. Heck, there's even an elementalist that I've seen out there that plays Righteous Fire. So,
Oh yeah, the Elementalist Explode Righteous Fire. It
yep.
can do crazy map clears. Much squishier, but it's just blowing up the screen constantly. Another phenomenal thing about Righteous Fire is that Pox has put together the most comprehensive build guide of any build guide out there. Basically going over the Juggernaut and the Inquisitor versions of it. So it's great for any newcomer or anybody that's even got 1,000 hours in the game.
Correct. The next one would be in terms of for Marauders, Bone Shatter. And this one is a little bit more difficult on terms of a league starter. Just due to the fact that it's melee. You're gonna constantly be upgrading your weapons. The development of the build itself feels a little bit more strained going through the acts. But once you get to a point where your bone shatter is actually proceeding to function, and the stuns are going off, and it's a freaking fun skill to play. Its content that it can do is pretty wide and varied. A lot of people tend to play this actually in hardcore. So if you don't like dying, I mean, it's a solid build. There's a lot of guides out there. Tripolar Bear, Binu, to name two of them that I followed Tripolars when I played it. Very capable content creator. He did a really good job with pointing out what you need done with it, what where your gear breaks are, kind of how it functions in a sense. Do you have
Yeah, I have
anything,
to
Fish,
say.
for that?
Yeah, the Bone Shatter Jug is like the best melee attack build out there right now. It can scale like none other. You can get to a point where it's like one big attack can clear the whole screen. It's pretty awesome.
I mean, and
So let's let's move on to what's your favorite one is a duelist.
so I've actually played this one 3, 4 times now, which is the Corrupting Fever Gladiator. That being said, it can be played as a champion. I preferred to play it as the Gladiator due to bleed explosions, because bleed explosions is just always a fun time.
And
Um,
that sound it gives you in the background.
oh, just the it's great. I played it as a magic finder. I've also played it as a actual content pushing character. um I would definitely say it has a hard league start, but that being said, if you level up with any of the leveling progress portions of like the gladiator, then you swap to it once you hit maps, it excels. It has the ability to really just push it, do the damage, and it's it's great. um I think I've done all the way up to getting my, I've done Uber Elder on it, Shaper. I haven't been able to do Cyrus or my Ubers yet, but I've done everything else below that. Map clear, great. Again, like I said, it's a capable magic finder. So if you want a non-raider approach with a pretty tanky character, I would definitely say that one's on my like top tier for the gladiator at least.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's a great build. It's one of the best at doing like Legion explosions. Go ahead and knocking out the entire Legion, or several other league mechanics that are just going to be right there to where mass AoE is going to excel. So another one of the duelist ones that I'd like to mention real quick is the Champion Explosive Area. It Zazarian puts out a build for Champion EA every season, it seems like.
Every league. I don't think he's missed one since it popped up.
Oh, I know. It's probably been 6 or 7 leagues now. Um, it's a great build. I love it for league starting. You can do all the bosses in the game with it, no problem. I do end up not liking the slowness of it eventually. So once I'm fast clearing T16s or so, I get to wanting to move out of EA just because it takes a few seconds to throw down a totem, a few more seconds for it to shoot, and a few more seconds for it to explode. But then it can kill anything in the game, and you're super tanky. So it's not the best at like delving or anything, but like if you're a blight farmer, this is one of the top builds for that.
I would definitely agree. I've played Explosive Arrow multiple times. I've always done it as self cast. After watching people use it um, on totems, I realized I was making a huge mistake. It's just so much better on the totems, but the same thing is like if you follow a really good build guide for self attack, like it's just as good. Like I was like, okay, I'm obviously built this wrong. And I think one of these leagues I will definitely go, actually maybe even this league, I'll go back and give it a shot. I mean, so many people play it.
Yeah, I'm really thinking about league starting as it again because I had a great league start 2 leagues ago with it, and I didn't play it at all last league. I did the Juggernaut Righteous Fire last league, got it to 100, and crushed all the content in the game with it. Then played, I don't know, a dozen other builds. Okay, well, moving on, let's talk about Ranger. Who's your favorite in Ranger?
So Ranger always has a interesting position with me. I'm very much a fan of the Pathfinder. I think the Pathfinder this league with tattoos, the tattoos are crazy for Pathfinder. The tattoo that we got leaked yesterday, or it was the day before. I'm losing track of my days because I'm waiting for Path to hurry up and come for the league start. But it was a potion duration tattoo, and potion duration mixed with how often you get uptime through the Pathfinder, I think that's gonna just push Pathfinder into almost a god tier. position. I think that
I
Toxic
have to agree.
Rain Ballista has been a very easy go-to build for so many players that I think it pushes it above kind of the Poison Concoction. Poison Concoction was a really, really, really fast build for a while, but I think that in terms of my personal preference, the Toxic Rain Ballista build right now by again Ziz and also Pasteron, um, it's so user friendly and it's strong. It has a little bit of delay before it gets going, but it's clear to get through your maps, get through the bosses. It's capable, and
Yeah.
it's hard to put in words on how versatile it is. It's good in almost every form of content. I've seen them do simulacrums. Like, why not?
Yeah, I've played the Pathfinder Toxic Rain several times, several different versions of it. Caesarians is a solid one. You don't need anything to get it going. You can absolutely get to red maps in the first few days with it, and you can do basically all content. And it's just very smooth.
I mean, my honorable mention, I think, going from that is actually I have a soft spot in my heart for Spark. And I think the Poison Spark by Tenki is a high value build in terms of it will take a bit to get off the to get going, but Spark is such a fun skill, and I think with potentially how the arenas are going to be going into this league's content, I think Spark will be a lot of fun. Spark is also a lot of fun for Sanctum, and Sanctum is back. So
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
that
I
adds a
crushed
lot.
Sanctum League with a Poison Spark. Um, So absolutely, and it is one of those builds that it takes a while to get it going because you don't want just a little conversion. You want to make sure you have that
Mm,
100% chance to poison, or
yep.
else your build just actually gets weaker by switching to poison. You want to stay full lightning until you can switch over.
Yep. Getting that heist gem for the Spark makes a world of difference. I mean, of course, you want to get the 20 quality, if not higher than 20 quality on it. Um, I think those are like my main two for the Ranger. I know that there's Raider. I haven't played a Raider build in over 2 years, so unfortunately for me, Raider doesn't still exist. Deadeye, obviously, if I'm going to play a Deadeye, Tornado Shot Deadeye, I'm using it as a magic finder. Lightning Arrow Deadeye also are,
Yeah.
very capable. I would never rate them as more so of a league starter. I think those are builds that I like to approach after the first week, the second week, when I'm already comfortable with how my build, like my actual farming build is, and I have a lot of divines to drop into it.
One of our clan members, Therazul, actually league started with the I think it was Ranger Lightning Arrow last league, and he couldn't believe how fast he was able to just deal the damage and clear everything. He was pretty squishy, but he could kill anything. So as long as he had enough portals, he was good to go.
Good
So I,
old cast on death portal gem.
that's right. Hey, so I want to backtrack real quick. You talked about tattoos that are coming up. Some of these tattoos do look like they have the potential to break the game. There's a couple interactions that they haven't quite answered yet that I'm really excited to try out and see if they work. And so, like, unnatural instinct.
So they did actually make a couple comments on that if you put a tattoo in but it is not allocated, that tattoo is technically not existing.
So that means you don't get the node at all.
You don't get the node.
So it
You
just gets deleted from
you
unnatural.
wouldn't. So from how they explained this it was a GGG member commenting on a post because people were like, "Oh yeah, dude, unnatural instinct, we got you guys. We're about to stuff up."
Yep.
Um,
Well, that
it's
was my first thought too, and
yeah.
I haven't seen that comment yet. So I'm glad they answered that. There's if you can get 50 tattoos
Mhm.
and you can kind of really put whatever you want wherever you want, you can make some builds that have never been created before. You're going to be able to really overstack whatever you want.
Yeah. I agree. Like there's so much potential coming off of these.
Yep.
Might of the Meek is confirmed as a jewel that will increase allocated tattoos. So I'm terrified to say this, but Might of the Meek, multi divine jewel again, easy,
Yeah, probably.
easy. It pains me to say that, but honestly, if you were to get the blast duration, every two that you get with that hit a Might of the Meek actually gives you one more for free, in a sense. So for every two that you hit, you get one for free. If you hit five or six of them in a Might of the Meek thing, I mean you're just exponentially getting stronger than you probably should for the same amount of space. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing where we can take those. We haven't seen all of what they do, but I do believe in the last data post that they sent, there's four or five per, and so that means we've only just barely scratched the tip of the iceberg of what the tattoos are capable of, and
Oh
that
yeah.
is
So
super exciting.
every single league, they end up just showing us two or three things that the league's bringing, and then all of a sudden we realize there's thousands of them. Thousands of different ways of combinations and differences, just even minor ones. Just think about what Uber Elder drops. What are the different combinations of that jewel?
Right, right. There's just so many. Um,
Yeah.
so to tie this together, this I'll actually post for the Templar my build that I am planning on league starting with a member of my guild who's also playing the exact same build as me. It's going to be the Siege Ballista Hierophant deck stacking variant.
So I
Uh,
played that last league, and oh my goodness, if you can get that dexterity up there, you
oh
can just
boy.
melt bosses. So tell me about yours.
So the idea is basically through the leveling process, as soon as I can, grab my brisk wrap, grab my Iron Commander, and pretty much we go on a giant trip all the way across this passive skill tree. You start grabbing Ranger nodes. We grab a couple of the nodes over in the Templar side. Um, we're actually modifying the previous build because the previous build had too much DPS and not enough survivability. So this time we're looking at about 2,000 to a little bit over 2,000 dexterity, which obviously, if there's really good tattoos, we'll have to sacrifice a totem or two. Oh, my bad.
Yep.
We'll get rid of 200,000 damage. But if the tattoos are really, really, really good, we'll find those kind of balances. And ideally, we'll have somewhere in the realm of 15 to 18 totems, each doing about 200,000 damage. My progress point is I'm expecting that about a week and a half to 2 weeks in. Um, it's definitely not a day one. Hey, I'm a god and I'm going to destroy everything. But I will be most likely pushing red maps day one with it. It's pretty smooth. There's not many issues. The leveling process for it don't really level as the Siege Ballista unless you can get those two items immediately. You can equip those items at level 30. So I mean, there is definitely potential to just fly through the axe once I get it going.
Yeah. Uh, that's one of the things that several members of our guild really love is the different totem play styles, and that it's so versatile too. There's all kinds of different totems that you can do.
Very, very true. Another one that I've seen is I've actually seen people do spark totems. I've seen people do the shockwave totems. Actually, I believe there's a post, or at least a YouTube video of the shockwave totems from last league, by Tatian, and it is extremely capable. I mean, I think it was
Oh yeah.
it was like a 100C build at the time. I don't know what it will be this league, but like it was one of those builds where once you got in the maps, you bought like one or two pieces of gear, and you're like, cool, I'm good to go to red maps. You know, Totems are just a very distinct playstyle. I know that a lot of people are like hesitant to jump into totems, but I think that if you are a very situationally aware player, in terms of if I put my totem here and I don't stand on top of it, or if I don't stand next to the minion that I'm trying to kill at the mob, you'll enjoy the play style, because if you're just put them down and you just kind of, all right, and you just
Yeah,
keep about your day. You don't.
I've seen a lot of people try to switch to totems and they've kind of forgotten how to play totems and they go to try to face tank something and they die.
And they're like, "What happened?" It's like, "Oh, you let your totems take the beating." They're like having a support player that tanks for you. It's nice. It's a fun way to play. Um, Another build that makes my honorable mention is the Inquisitor Spark. I played it with actually a guild member of mine named Sean about 4, 5 leagues ago or so. Um, we did it as a self casting with Archmage. It was so much fun. The progress of getting to the point of where we were standing near the Ubers and we were killing the Ubers like through their phases. I mean, the spark, ball lightning also is another one that falls under that category. I personally like lightning skills with Inquisitor, being able to penetrate with the criticals, like pure penetration is just always a good time.
Yeah, Spark again is one of my favorite skills of all time. It's just the ability to go around corners and to really clear all content. I also did a Soul Thirst build with Spark back in the Sentinel League, to where my potions would just last, and I'd get to attacking at the or casting at the cast cap. It felt like the whole screen would be filled with sparks that are dealing
Mm-hmm.
crazy amounts of damage, and nothing was a problem. I could do all content really.
Yeah, I would
So
definitely say all content. I mean, Blight, even though they're open, you can pretty much kill everything in the Blight map. I mean, I don't think there was
yeah,
any content that I necessarily felt bad playing. It was just more map types. I think it's
yeah, the
very
open
particular
types
to
are
your
not as
map.
nice.
Yeah. But other than that, I mean, think about it. Most maps that people are power farming are usually closed space maps anyway. So it kind of,
Actually, this league, multiple of the maps are that acid cavern style map. Uh,
right?
Several of them are back, and a Spark person could easily clear that map on repeat.
100%. 100%. Um,
Okay, let's
so,
move on to Shadow.
I mean, Trickster Frostblades made a huge showing last league. Um, Frostblades overall just absolutely destroyed it. Vengeance Cascade was like their bread and butter. But one of the few changes, though, this league was they got rid of Vengeance Cascade and gave us the jewel, basically the projectile return jewel or gem. Sorry, gem jewel. So the projectile return gem, and
Yep.
a lot of people were like, well, is it actually going to be good still? After looking at the gem values, a lot of content creators, myself, the gem is good. It actually is better replace than like your lesser multiple projectile, your greater multiple projectiles. It can replace like, oh god, Pierce, Chain, like there's quite a few that it can replace and still increase your damage and make the build super viable. So that being said, Frostblades really didn't take much of a hit, if any of a hit, from this change. I think it's going to be fine. I loved it last league. My guildmate, Kickers, absolutely loved it. He played, actually, that's the only build he played last league. And he got into Ubers, beat Ubers, played for about a month and a half or so. And then he was like, I've done everything I wanted to play with in this league. And it's literally the only build that he played.
And that goes to show how enjoyable that build can be.
I agree. I agree. Um,
Okay, so let's yeah, that's a great talk about the tricksters. Let's move on to Witch. You do this fun build that is just Great to watch. You've streamed it many times on Twitch. It's probably your favorite build out there. Tell me about your your hot auto bomber.
So it actually pains me that this league will be the first league in crap over a year. My first league in over a year, almost 2 years, that I will not be league starting my Herald of Thunder auto bomber for the Elementalist. This build is very quick to transition. Generally, you'll play any of your casual league starters. Last league, I believe I started as a cold dot. Within the first day, I was able to acquire my Storm Secret. How the Storm Secret works basically is every time a Herald of Thunder is cast, you damage yourself. But the upside of that is that it increases the frequency at least your Herald of Thunders proc out. So you can kind of get this effect of lightning is constantly raining from the sky. You have become Zeus, and everything is going to die. Depending on what chess piece you wear, you can proliferate that out to a bunch of other targets. The screen clear on it is insane once you have an Impulsas. If you swap off the Impulsas, you can actually go with like almost five different unique chess pieces, depending on what you're looking to do. I have killed Uber bosses with this. I've cleared all content in the game with this, just depending on what gear I put on. And a lot of the times it doesn't necessarily need me to change the skill tree. So I could leave the skill tree and just pick a piece, my gear on, and like, okay, cool. I'm doing bossing today. Oh, take it off. I'm going to go run some maps today. Oh, take it off. I'm going to go run my blight. I'm going to go run some heist. I mean, this build has just been insanely capable. A lot of times I swap off of it to go play something else, and I just instantly go, why am I not playing my Herald of Thunder build? I think this league is going to be insane for it, thanks to the tattoos. There's a lot of extra strength that you tend to have on the build, and a lot of extra int. And I think if any of those tattoos end up being pretty damn good, I will I don't even have to say it. I will be re-rolling and making a Herald of Thunder build this league to take advantage of
Yeah, I
that.
was about to say, ladies and gentlemen, place your bets. What day do you think Hive re-rolls into Herald of Thunder?
The moment I can afford it. uh, I think last league I was day 2 morning. No, I take that back because we start at 4 p.m. my time. I transitioned from my starter build into the Herald of Thunder, fully capable. So that was with my weapon, my 2 rings, and my chest piece. I did that within 12 hours, and I had
Yep.
my build rolling within 12 hours.
And you started bringing in the currency.
Yep, I was able to just I just picked a league content that I wanted to farm and just went with it. I think the only thing I really struggled with in the beginning was the essences, but then again, T16 essences can be pretty spicy at times, and until you
Oh
get
yeah,
a
no, I think
few
I remember you going with those big boy metamorphs and
yes,
saying, you know what, I can't do metamorph yet.
yep. I jumped in there and said, T16 metamorph, this will be fun. You know what? I think we'll go back down. I mean,
We are re-specking out of metamorph,
yeah,
boys.
how fast the build is, though. I mean, blasting T5 maps, blasting T10 maps before you're fully built up. Um, it's fine. It's okay, guys. Like the build is insanely capable. I think a lot of people agree with me on it. There's multiple ways to build it. If you think that one position on it's too expensive, you can pivot, go to another spot on it. I can't give it enough accolades. I think, definitely I've seen Empyrean do a mirror tier version of it. I've personally done like anywhere from a 1 divine all the way up to almost a 400 divine version of it. I've seen Ziz play it. I mean, there's a lot of content creators that have played this build.
Yeah, and it's kind of surprising how fun the build is, how good the build is. Being an auto bomber playstyle that can clear all content in the game, and there's really no great build guides. So I think if we get enough people to ask you, you would probably put together a true build guide for this, wouldn't you?
I definitely could. I think it would be something that I'd probably work on in the middle of streaming. Just because the first week of a league start is mostly me going, okay, how am I gonna do this? Put stuff together, money, right? And then, oh god, I have to sleep.
Yeah,
Uh,
sleeping
sleeping's
gets us all.
important. Uh,
Okay, so moving on, which we were just talking about, there are so many options for which. Almost every league, I think there hasn't been a league where I didn't roll a witch to do something.
mhm.
Elementalist always has amazing things they can do, unlike any other class. And then there's also a cultist that just absolutely excels with all the different chaos damage things out there. And then you have all your minions in Necromancer. And I'm not the biggest minion player. A lot of the people in our group, our clan, they all love minions. Hive and I, we don't play that many minions. You don't, right?
I've dabbled into the minion life. I've watched a couple of my guild members really go deep in them, and I'm like, man, okay, I'm gonna try this. I think my best minion build to date still would probably be the carrion golem build that I played. It has since been tweaked. It was like pure carrion golems. It was absolute chaos on my screen. Extremely enjoyable. Um, that being said, I know that we have a couple of our guild members. Fabi, for instance, is heavy into that minion builds, even though he's recently branched off into totems. But Ericali's Fang still sits as like probably the most iconic build for like if I think of Fabi time, it's Ericali.
Speaking of Fabby time, he has joined us here. Are you there, Fabby?
I am. Good
Oh,
evening.
Tell us real quick about your favorite minion build.
My favorite, I got two of them. Well, one and a half. Eric Collie Fang. Um, Having all those spiders screaming all over the place is fun. And also like animate weapon. And I've combined the two before, and that was kind of fun too. So I have spiders and swords and daggers flying all over the screen.
absolute chaos. Yeah, I was gonna say, you've managed to clear most of the content in the game with those builds too, after some investment, right?
Right. I did. I actually did Cyrus with it, but that was a struggle because I struggled with that fight anyways. But
Fair enough.
um, the nice thing about it is any reflect maps you can do. Um,
Is true.
because I was mass running vaults of, not the vaults of Assyria, but the sack frag map.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, got you.
yeah, that and then the Uber version of it.
Yep.
I think
And the Uber Zeri can be some good currency the first week or so.
Very
For
true.
sure.
If getting a build that can do at Zeri, base at Zeri within the first day, within the first day or two is extremely good currency, and that kind of like factors into people going into Uber at Zeri within like 3 or 4 days once their builds are capable. I mean, it also can drop the House of Mirror cards in the final at Zeri's zone. So I mean, there's a lot to be had for sure. Being able to move in that, and like he said, I mean, the builds are reflect immune, and that's like the biggest necessity of fighting at Zeri because nothing worse
yeah,
than blowing yourself up.
because I would scale chaos poison damage on them.
So some of the other honorary mentions for which I actually think that Detonate Dead is going to kill it on the boss race this league.
I've actually seen content creators literally going like, "Do I have to play Detonate Dead in order to win?" And they're just like, "I if I want to be competitive, I have to play Detonate Dead." I mean, it's that good. Hardcore players play it every league since it's been started. Basically, they even took a massive nerf when they nerfed the last. I believe it was a corpse that was like doing like 10 times, 15 times the damage. They basically nerf that mob, and they're still playing it because it's just that good.
Oh yeah, I think it was the Golden Boy. He
Yeah.
he just had 50 times the HP of anybody else, and so you could kill anything in the game with blowing him up.
It was definitely a build. Cold Dot was going to be my honorable mention. Like I said, I usually start my Herald of Thunder build off with Cold Dot. I move that Cold Dot into pretty much whatever my endgame build is going to be. That being said, Cold Dot by itself, it looks daunting. There's a lot of buttons, but half the time you don't even push those buttons unless something crazy is going on. I mean, like, I think on average use maybe 2-3 buttons with the build, and then say you come up to a unique, then you might use your fourth or fifth button. But overall, it's not as daunting as a lot of people think. They look at it and go, there's a lot of moving pieces, you know. That being
Yes,
said,
definitely are.
the cost of the build, depending on how many people are playing, it's very specific in terms of pieces that it wants, and those can skyrocket very quick depending on availability. So, yeah.
But Cold Dot is one of those builds that is just a smooth play style all the way up. You don't need any gear. You can keep going. It's one of the number one builds in like Ruthless because it doesn't need anything.
Funny you say that. That's actually my first character I got to 85 in Ruthless was a Cold Dot build.
There you go.
Yeah, I did that on the gold race, the race that had like the gold currency and stuff of that nature. Yeah, no, I got it up to 85 on Ruthless. I think it's a very very solid build. You can't go wrong with Cold Dot. I think the only way you go wrong is if you choose the wrong ascendancy and decide to go down the wrong tree.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to Scion. There's really not a good league start Scion, is there?
Um, I have never personally league started a Scion. I haven't seen anybody league start a Scion unless they are going as a support off the bat, which means you're going to be getting carried through the whole leveling process. That being said, if you have friends that are willing to do that, and Orabot is the go-to.
Absolutely.
It's it's there to pump up your friends and keep yourself alive and keep everybody else alive. Um, there's opportunities for people that want to do such a playstyle, but like I said, you're going to need to rely on other people to get off the ground. You're going to need to rely on other people to make your currency. After that, you can sell your services, jump in random groups with people. Uh, just know that if you do go Orabot Scion, everybody will love you.
Oh yeah, everybody wants an Orabot.
Everybody wants an Orabot. Even if, like, for instance, my Herald of Thunder build doesn't necessarily benefit greatly from an Orabot, I always enjoyed having an Orabot on my team in my group because it increases quant, rarity. It also gave me enough of a boost to cover the extra health that they add to the mobs. I mean, Orabots overall are just extremely useful. And I think that
Yeah,
this league,
absolutely.
they might give them something that might be a little interesting through the tattoos
Yeah,
also.
we see some changes coming for Orobots. There are several things coming, and we've seen in the past when Orobots get just a little bit too much power, they break the game.
They
So
absolutely
some of these
snap.
tattoos could very much break the game here soon. We're looking forward to the league start and trying out some of the different tattoos, seeing what other things this league has in store for us. Speaking of, there's several gems coming. I want to touch base on there's a few of those right now, and the one that I'm most excited about. I don't know how good it'll be. I really don't know until I see it in action. But the spell blade support, it opens up so many potential builds that were just never possible before. It could drastically change what you can use as your main hand weapon or even dual wielding weapons while still being a spell damage dealer. Do you have some input on the spell blade support?
I've been like kind of racking my brain against like a lot of the unique items that potentially could see use with it. Um, I know that there was one that we were talking about. It's not fully fledged out, so I don't want to put it out there yet because we don't know how the stacking and all that's going to interact with it. But there is a lot of opportunity for items that have attribute scaling within them as a one-handed weapon, where you potentially hold on to two of them. That attribute scaling can actually feed into the spell damage. Now, again, this is speculation, but from what we can read and what we kind of understand of like how it's supposed to work and how there's like a very complex process of like what happens first in the scaling of damage, etc. It should work by theory. And I think that's super exciting me, knowing that there's going to be one-handed weapons that can potentially be better than a wand. Like that's just mind-blowing to me, knowing that if we can actually make a one-handed weapon that has just so much damage scaling to what we want, it will be better than a wand, that so much so that we can actually lose a support and put a spellblade support in. I think that's potentially meta breaking. I look forward to seeing how people abuse the hell out of this gem. Like there will be abuse cases, and I don't know if they'll be severe enough that people go, okay, it needs to be addressed right now, or if they'll let it go through the league. But it has the potential to be one of those, yeah, maybe we made a mistake. Gems.
It absolutely could be.
That's exciting.
There's several uniques that come to mind just reading over that potential support gem, like Nikta's Lantern. It gives you Battle Mage, and it has a good bit of damage on there. Battle Mage is something you would definitely want if you're doing this already. So it's another way to just exponentially scale your damage. How much damage is it really going to add? Is it really going to do, let's say it averages 150 physical damage and averages a little bit more on elemental damage, multiplies by the attacks per second, because it says damage, so the pure DPS on the weapon, then that's multiplied by the 135%. So are you getting 700% added spell damage? That's crazy to think about.
Yep. This is why it's falling into the category where, is it going to be too much that they have to pull it back, or if they're going to let it actually.
Yeah, I can see some of these that would definitely break the game if it works the way it reads. So that's something we're going to have to test out, and hopefully we find a fun game build that we can put out and let some people break the game with us.
Very true. I mean, I'm already kind of theory crafted, knowing that you can pretty easily craft about a 500-600 PDPS weapon. I know that you should be able to craft something that is almost as comparable with the element that you're looking for, which is actually something that people normally don't craft for. People don't craft one-handed weapons going, hey, I want to max out the cold damage that I'm getting out of this weapon.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you have the cast on crit people no longer using their regular weapon. I blinked on it.
Cospreys.
The Cospreys, yes. So they're no longer using two Cospreys. Instead, now they're using a single Cospreys and then this absolutely cracked out cold damage or cracked out lightning damage in case they want to get shock in their build. And
yep.
You've just opened up the meta to potentially, people that want to craft a 600 elemental DPS weapon, or a 500 elemental DPS. Where in the past, if you made an elemental one-handed weapon, I mean, you're pretty much just going to get laughed at, and people were like, why didn't you just make a two-hander?
Yep.
But given that this skill doesn't work with two-handers, it only works with one-handers, which was something that, it took me a minute to really understand, because a lot of the times when we get a support skill like this, it supports attacks, right? And we go, oh, cool, it supports all attacks. Well, this one specifically states one-handed melee weapon. So again,
Yep.
super excited to see what they do with it. I mean, it's going to be a blast. I think that, you know, potentially Mathel pulls this thing up as a league starter, and I will be just like, oh my god, he's doing it.
I hope somebody does.
I hope somebody league starts it. If not, I want to see it as like their second or third build. Like once somebody gets comfortable enough with it.
You and I talked about putting together a build for
Yes.
a certain style. We're not going to talk about that too much right now, but
I don't
if
want to
it
get your hopes
works
up.
the way it reads, we have a build that could come along doing a few billions in damage. It would be
It
kind
will
of
be
crazy.
nasty if it works how it reads. I would say it would be my boss killer, hands down.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even then you could do self cast, or you could trigger it like you said, cast on crit, or there's all kinds of different ways you could do it.
A lot of ways to cut the cake, so to say. Another one that kind of feeds into that kind of concept that I was thinking of is controlled blaze. I know a lot of people don't play melee to ignite builds, and knowing that they changed the chieftain how they did, it kind of like, people are a little hesitant to do it. But controlled blaze, for those that don't know, it increases your chance to ignite, and then your ignites, for every ignite that you inflict recently, which is like I believe 15 seconds or something of that nature, 10 to 15. It's always hard to remember because recently in this game versus a lot of the other games I play is completely different numbers. But basically, if you're attacking very very fast and you're inflicting ignites extremely quickly, it deals 14% more damage with your ignite for each one of those ignites that you're hitting. And more damage is a crazy multiplicative that will like just you can break the game on multiplicatives. Knowing that
Absolutely.
this thing has that, and it's kind of feeding into the concept of working your ignites, and your ignites do more damage. Emberwake with a skill with controlled blaze, you can potentially stack, 20 or so ignites that are doing millions of damage at a time. If you have a heavy enough hit with the right setup, I
So
think it could be
the
crazy.
way Ignite works is it kind of takes that biggest Ignite and it scales that damage. So you want something like Ruthless support in conjunction with it, where you're going to have hit,
Big hit.
mega hit,
Right.
and then all of a sudden your Ignites are just destroying everything.
I think Emberwake is the only way that you actually. I know Emberwake might be one other unique. Is the only way you can stack multiple ignites on
Right.
something. So it's like two-handed weapons with controlled blaze, ruthless. I mean, you could do a bone shatter ignite build now,
Yeah,
and
you
because
could.
bone shatter hits so god awfully hard, and I believe it hits multiple times if there's multiple targets, you can technically get this ignite to ramp up. And with a maximum of 364%, like that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's a scary number. 364% more
More,
damage.
more.
Yeah, that's the biggest number I think we've ever seen on a support gem.
I would definitely agree with when it comes to more damage. I think percent damage we've gotten close with a couple. We were like 300%. Um, and those got nerfed pretty quickly. So knowing that this is a more multiplier with that high of percent kind of gets me a little excited to see how people go about procking it and how they're going to use it. I think even leveling, I think that the ignite proliferation, freaking can't remember what the ring is called, but uh from the Breach Lord. Oh my gosh, Zoth, Zoth's ring, the blood. I think that, or the amulet. There we go. Zoth's blood. Hey, there we go. I eventually worked it out. I think Zoth's blood with this setup, being able to put Ash on hit be able to get that penetration in there, I
Yeah.
think it's going to be crazy. And I'm looking personally to Zoph's Bloods and stuff like that as potential early buys, knowing that this is a support gem and that people will probably be buying them.
What we even saw is Blood being pretty high cost,
Yep.
several leagues, and not many people farm it. So that's one of those. There's a definite potential, depending on the market, for someone to make some money farming that exclusively and just selling these off. Because I do think it could be an amazing thing, this league.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think the other one that caught my eye a lot, and this is mostly because of my Herald of Thunder build, Devour support. Or was it Devour? Yes, Devour. So the thing with Devour, right, is that it is giving something to every build that uses a hit skill. And because Herald of Thunder is a hit skill, when it hits, it will allow Herald of Thunder to consume the corpse of an enemy, healing you. I'm not too worried about the heal. The heal's added thing, but porcupines no more.
Right. One of the biggest problems with that Herald of Thunder build you're talking about is the porcupines, and
It's easily
they killed me
hands
so
down.
many times.
It's easily hands down my arch nemesis of like mobs. It's when I see porcupines, I sometimes just put a portal down and leave. I'm
Yep.
just like, I ain't gonna run this map. I already know how this is gonna turn out, and it's not gonna be nice to me. Knowing that I have a skill gem that fills that ability for me, and on top of that, gives me back life, which I'm damaging myself constantly, and it's increasing the damage. So they gave it the ability to increase damage on targets that are low life. So if I'm not instantly popping something, I'm increasing the damage versus that, which means that I might as well almost be instantly popping it. On top of that, I'm consuming their corpses and recovering them. This is actually an extremely interesting combination if you actually start looking at the Necromancer's consumption skill. And I know that from the looks of it, it has to be a skill that hits enemies. But if you read that particularly, that should apply to minions. Now, if that applies to minions, it won't heal you, but it should heal your minions, which would fix
Well, that
a
would be an
lot of
interesting interaction.
potential, could fix a lot of potential issues. And the fact that it's only labeled support, it doesn't state that it has to, it says any skill. And if
Right.
your skill hits, it should work.
Well,
So
yeah.
I think is an extremely valuable support. I'm definitely going to be adding it into my Herald of Thunder. I already know I'm probably going to get rid of hypothermia for it, or I'm going to get rid of energy shield bleed. It's a toss
Well,
up.
to be noted, this is supported skills deal 40% increased damage.
Yes, not more.
So it's nowhere near as good as a lot of the other supports for damage wise, and it only does that when they're on low life, which is 50% or lower.
Right.
But that corpse consumption is the main thing you'd be going for there. That can absolutely change the way you're able to play.
So I don't know if there's there might be newer listeners. There was actually a mark skill. Well, they're considered mark skills now, but it was a curse before called Warlord's Mark, and it was removed from access for every spellcaster in the game because of how broken it was. It gave us
And they've
unlimited
given
amounts
it
of
back to
regen,
us.
and this is literally Warlord's Mark in a skill gem. Like, I mean, given that you actually have to kill the target in order to use it, whereas before you could just constantly hit the target and still get it, we are getting a form of that back, and this is why it is exciting to see how it's going to actually function.
Yeah. It gives me a little more excitement for that support for sure.
Definitely. I know that there's a handful of other skill gems on here. Like I mentioned earlier, return projectiles. It's Vengeance Cascade back without a couple of the bells and whistles. I think it's perfectly fine. It's strong enough to be put in place of some of the other ones, some of the other skill gems. I think that it was just so insanely powerful as a potential anointment that it had to be moved to something else. I think them saying, "Hey, if you want this insanely fun and like interactive and just strong inner skill in a sense, then you need to move it to something where you're going to have to lose something in order to use it." Because, to be completely honest, being able to anoint something like that, you anoint it on day 2, and it's instantly just pushed the power of your build through the roof, right?
Yeah, the returning projectiles the previous way absolutely was overpowered, and I do think this is a good medium to allow us to still have projectiles returning, but it not be too overpowered. Even though I still think some builds will be able to break the game with it.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I think we'll still have a really good potential for use in it. I don't think it's going to be like kind of towed off to the side because, like for instance, my build, uh, like I had a Spark Inquisitor. This could actually be reused on a Spark Inquisitor. It can be used on a Ball Lightning Inquisitor. Like before, I needed the anointment for something else, but now I don't need to rely on said anointment. I can now grab the skill gem, throw it into the build, and be like, wow, hey, look at this. I get to keep my charisma anointment and I get to enjoy what everybody else is playing with. I think that's huge, and that'll be a very nice addition. Fabi,
Yeah.
actually, I had a question. Is there any skill gems that you're interested in for this league?
That returning projectile.
Yeah. You think we're gonna end up using it in our build?
I'll have to play with the numbers. Is that available now in the POB?
I
I don't
haven't.
think it's in POB yet.
Tomorrow probably. I would reckon tomorrow or maybe just before league start on Friday.
I just updated my POB. It's not in there.
Okay. It's like I'm not even 100% sure what I'm gonna link because I don't know if I'm gonna go damage on full life or added cold.
Friday cold again. I
Yeah,
mean, maybe I go one and you go the other, and we'll see how it goes.
yeah.
My Duns cap of the gems though, guys. And I mean, I've been very open about my disdain for link skills. And Frigid Bond, I I love the numbers. Don't get me wrong. The numbers for it look good. They're fine. But your link skills are not permanent, which means that your Frigid Bond is not permanent. You have to recast it constantly on your person. I I want link skills to no longer be a cast time on them. Like
Yeah, there's
it,
a lot of room for improvement on
it
link
hurts
skills. I
me.
love what they were trying to do with it, but it's not working. It needs to be revisited. It doesn't make me happy to play any link skills as the person casting them, and oftentimes no one else even wants to do them. So I think there's just a huge area of opportunity there, and I do hope that they readdress them soon. And then them giving them some love with adding support gems for more links is actually good. It means they're thinking about it. They're working towards it. Now, Therazul just chimed in. He did wanted to remind us that for Lightning Arrow, the return arrow support gem is going to be huge because you won't lose your entire anoint to it. Kind of like what you were saying for other builds as well. Lightning Arrow could have just gotten a huge buff by getting this support gem.
I think it's great in how they're doing it because everybody can now make use of it instead of a select few that didn't need anything else or that were willing to give away a lot of their other power. Back kind of on the idea of link skills, there's actually some really funny stuff that I've heard that's going to be coming down the pipeline in terms of what content creators are doing with it. Um, God, I believe it's Grimro is supposedly going to do this with some of his moderators in this thing, and they're going to try to do a full playthrough of the axe with just link skills and
Oh
Frigid
my goodness.
Bond.
Oh my goodness.
And honestly, I'm a huge fan of the Gucci Hobo. I absolutely loved the challenge. I love the idea that I have to try to make my build out of whatever uniques drop. And I'm not allowed to use anything until I get a unique drop. So punching crabs is all kinds of fun. Um, I think that it'll be a fun, like, haha gimmick, and I think it'll be enjoyable to watch. Will I personally do it? Hell no. But I will definitely watch somebody else do it and just be like, God have mercy on your soul, man. Like that is
Just watch. They're gonna set the record for the
oh,
fastest somehow, some way. The link skills just
they got the
really
cold
link
damage
you up.
time going crazy. They're all
Yeah,
occultists.
there you go. And just beam me up, Scotty. Let's get through these acts.
You
Zoom,
know,
zoom.
it's the Guardian. I knew it. It's the Guardian. Um, Another one that I think that kind of because of what kind of play style we tend to do, it didn't really pop up so much on our radars, but trauma. I think trauma is a very interesting setup for a lot of potential I do damage to myself builds. I don't know how it works. Okay, so it cannot trigger skills. So you cannot. Okay, that makes more sense actually. So I think it will be good for builds that are trying to get down to quote unquote low life, which is like the 50% now. I don't like to call it low life because originally low life was like 30%.
Yeah.
But lower than half life. I think it'll be really good for builds that are attempting to do that and that are looking to now stun lock. Something that was changed actually in this patch, and I think is more in tune with how PoE 2 in the future is working from what we've seen, is they want bosses to be stunnable more often. And
Yep.
they removed the stun immunity on a lot of bosses. And I think
Yes.
trauma is going to open up the ability to increase how much these guys are going to be able to stun. And I feel like this league, we will get a perma-stun character. I
Well,
think,
with trauma, I think it does open up that possibility.
yeah, I think that we definitely have the position and obviously the brain power because the PoE community is fucking ingenious. They can literally take two rocks and make a gun out of them. I don't know how they manage to do it every league. Let's be
Every league.
honest. Every league, something new comes out, and everybody's like, "The fuck was that?" And they're like, "Hey, I mean, it was technically capable for the last 3 leagues, but nobody tried it." And it's like, mind blown, you know. And I think that no, we have players that already attempt to do a lot of the stun mechanics. I think that this is going to be just a natural progression for them to go, "Oh, cool. Let's screw around with trauma and see how we can get trauma to work." I think it's the only time I'll ever say is that trauma in your life is actually going to be a positive influence.
um, I do have to say, one of my favorite YouTubers is Joustus, and he makes the craziest, silliest builds. And then he always sings us a beautiful song to go with it. And I can't wait for him to put together a perma-stun character that's trauma, and then
His
he
trauma
sings
song.
he sings us a nice trauma metal song in the background. It's gonna be beautiful.
I look forward to that. Maybe we should message him and be like, "Hey man, put it together," because I think that'd be a lot of fun. But
Yeah, we could, he could totally sing Sandman.
there we go.
Put everybody to sleep.
Everybody to sleep.
Go to
So
sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep.
sadism was another one that was kind of on my thing, but I pushed it to the side because lead bow is usually very how do you put it? Slot like starving. It has a very hard time putting other stuff in that section. And after the Abyssus nerf, or not Abyssus, oh my god, Asylum. After the Asylum nerf, and then the Bleed bow nerf, like I think it definitely took a very heavy hit after those. I don't know if this is going to be enough to bring it back in line, but I do think that for other uses, I think sadism will be acceptable. I don't see the potential for crazy game breaking here as much as I did for a lot of these other gems.
Well, I actually think that sadism could be amazing in several different builds. Uh, like even think about ignite. If you had that ignite we were talking about,
Right.
where you're getting that huge ignite, but it's dealing the damage 79% faster, you're going to be able to clear even faster, right? But you typically want your ignites lasting, 3 to 4 seconds so that you don't have to constantly keep up that biggest hit. So if you don't do it right, it's going to be a damage loss. But if you do it correctly, you time everything just right, you can negate that less duration of elements, to where you're just dealing basically 79% more damage.
I could see that, especially with the 80% less duration on them, which increases the amount of time it takes to do your damage. Decreases the amount of time, which makes it the DPS actually go higher. It's
Yep.
weird
Can't
how
wait
it
to see
how
what
it
people build
works.
with this.
Mentally, like the whole ailment duration versus faster. It's like faster's your multiplier, less is also a multiplier. So it's like you do have two multipliers on that gem. I think it's interesting. Um, that's pretty much the main on my my radar for when it comes to gems.
Yeah.
I mean, we have corrupting cry. I think it's a good, fun war cry to have. The damage looks acceptable on it. I don't think it's crazy. Um, I think paired with maybe uh, the bleed bow, or not the bleed bow, but the corrupting fever bow, I think it could be fun. Um, just another arsenal for melee characters. I don't think it's insane. Um, just like a quick shot at the rest of them. Locust Mine, I've heard nothing but like question marks come up with Locust Mine. I think
Yeah.
the just people are very confused of why you would use this versus other things. I think it's a lot of it is like target myself, and that means if I'm targeting myself, I need to stand on the thing that I want to kill, which means it's killing me. Oh, that's like it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. All of these gyms, I do see a potential for them. I'm just wondering if it's our best option already. I do look forward to hearing about the people that put together amazing builds with all these different supports and the different little changes that they've made to the game, even the small additions to the other gyms that have been slightly updated, like just adding a tag for orb. So that can definitely change the way some people play, and it's going to make some new builds that we've never seen before.
Right. I think adding orb was a huge bonus for cremation. Cremation's already really strong. I think putting that on there just opens up a few more opportunities for it to be abused during the leveling process.
Yep. All right, so let's move on to some just real quick tips on league start. Like let's don't
Breathe.
forget to, yeah, breathe, get plenty of sleep,
Get
uh,
your water, set your food up. I mean,
ha- have stuff that isn't going to interfere with clicking your mouse. So you don't want to be eating popcorn by hand. Uh,
if somebody else is feeding you popcorn, more power to you.
Yeah, I prefer someone to have one of those big elephant leaves and feed me grapes. So,
But, I mean, like my usual plan for a league start is I do a meal prep the night before. I will still sleep now. I'm kind of getting a little bit older. Can't quite do the let's go for 45 hours, guys.
yeah,
Yeah,
let's not do that. We don't need any deaths on league start.
yeah. I'm
Yes.
I'm already, I'm at the old age of 32. No, but I'm definitely, I'm in that mind process that not sleeping, you are going to screw something up in your process. You being able to, even if it's a 4 or 5 hour nap, right? I still consider that sleep because that's my average sleep is 5 hours. If I go to sleep, wake up after 5 hours, and I still feel great, and I can sit down and push some more, like without any distractions. Like that is optimal for me. And so that's why meal prepping the night before, or even having meals that are just they're ready to be cooked, like not even done cooking, but like, hey, I can go and throw this on the pan real fast while I'm focusing on my trades, and I'm like fast typing everybody like, what do you need, because like, we're in a guild, and a lot of times there's periods where we need to trade for stuff. I think those are some of the best times, like finding what is comfortable for you to step away and handle your business, that there are people available to do that for you will make a world of difference. Your league start will feel comfortable, you know.
So we're definitely talking about the IRL portion
Yes.
of getting prepared for the leagues,
It's the
and it
most
is
important part.
probably the most important part. Now, as far as
Yes.
tips and tricks on league start, I always say just go with a build that is going to be comfortable. Practice it even if you have time beforehand. Plan it out. Go ahead and get the POB put in. Go ahead and follow a item filter that you can just click on day one. That's auto updated. Those are the best ones. That's pretty new. Most people don't even know how to do that.
Okay.
But yeah, just go to your favorite build creators Path of Exile character page, and you should see at the bottom right it says item filters. Click it, and you'll see the ones that they're following. Follow one of those, and that's probably going to be your best bet. Of course, Never Sinks is probably the best out there. I always suggest just going with those as a baseline. Um, don't forget to just power through the campaign, get into maps, work on that map sustain, but also maps are very valuable out the gate to where you can make a lot of currency selling maps. A lot of
Oh
people
yeah.
just hoard them for days and days, and they've missed their opportunity to make some good currency. If you get up into, the yellow maps and start listing them for a few chaos, all of a sudden you're pounding in some chaos, and your guild mates are only finding like one chaos per map, and you're finding two or three maps, selling those for 3 or 4 chaos a piece. You're now finding 20 chaos a map. They're
It can
finding
definitely
one.
put you in an advantage. I know that
Absolutely.
last league, selling maps actually was a huge thing for me because I was able to get into maps pretty early. Another thing that you should look for also is once you hit red maps, having successful corrupted red maps that don't have really bad mods on them. If you've already ran them, those are actually at a premium for almost the first week,
Absolutely.
and I sold a handful of them for over 10 chaos in the first week. I mean, I
Oh
think
yeah.
I got like 18 chaos for a colonnade map that was corrupted or something. It was ridiculous. You would never see that price. And I don't want to say you would never get that kind of value out of running it yourself, but why gamble off of that when I can guarantee how much I'm going to get for it, knowing that I can recycle that value back into your character. And I think that's like one of my biggest in-game like tips. And I don't follow it all the time, and I've been chewed out, and people are like, why are you hoarding your currency? Do something with it.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
invest in
another
your
map.
character.
Speaking of those maps, Fall Temple, the drop chance has been changed drastically.
Oh,
So it sounds like we're going to have a lot less on the market, and that's actually one of my favorite maps to run, just because you can get some crazy
yes.
uniques out of there. You can get some that are worth so much. I found an item that was perfectly rolled with two corruptions on there that you never see on there, and I was able to sell it for just a massive profit on selling. You never know what you're going to get out of those. Now, most of them are going to be junk. You're going to get, the lowest roll with the corruptions that don't do anything. Just hoard those. You can still vendor them for some alchemy
I
shards.
need junk.
Yeah, but just the more of those that you open in those Vol Temple maps, the more chances you have at getting something amazing. So don't underestimate those, but they're going to be kind of limited this league, so we need some of y'all to go out there and farm them up.
Yeah, for me. There's also there's a trick when you're running that map, just to jump on that. Well, so since we mentioned it. If you take the strongbox skills that the strongbox have a chance to reopen, it actually applies to every single one of those. So there is a chance that you get them. Also, if you take all the effect nodes at the very top, it'll actually increase the amount of strong boxes in that zone too. So
Yes.
you go from 10, I believe, to 15 on opening, and then from like the 15, or it's 15 or 16, then you go from that to there's a chance for them to be reopened every time. And
Yes,
it's
it can take your profit on that
yes,
up, easily
quite a bit.
50% because you're going to be opening so many more.
Yep.
So I know that was a very specific goal to have in mind, but it is something to think about in the first few days of the league. If you can get there and start getting those crazy corruptions, those random uniques that other people don't have on the market, you can ask whatever you want for them because they don't exist other than what you have. So other just
Tips.
tips and tricks.
So a big tip for me that I would recommend everybody do, and I focus a lot on the trading game. I like to accumulate my wealth through other people and via trading. Know the value or the approximate value of the items you're looking to do for your upgrades. Set up your PoE trades. You can put whoops up by clicking the activate live search. When somebody posts that item, keep an eye out and see, okay, is this item coming in regularly? If it is, what are the the prices? If you see that there's a big dip in the price, it's usually a good idea to give it a couple seconds, maybe buy that one, or wait to see if somebody else follows suit with it. And generally speaking, you can get an item that's like 0.3 divines cheaper than everybody else's. You might save yourself 30C. Well, if you save yourself 30C on every single trade by watching the trades, obviously I'm using the extra monitor. If you don't have an extra monitor, that gets a lot harder to deal with. But in that sense, if you're saving 30C on every trade, you're eventually saving a divine. You're eventually saving 10 divines. You eventually save 20, 30 divines. And then,
Absolutely.
kind of looking into that, and you can, pull it further apart. You can buy supplies earlier. Buying supplies earlier will eventually pay off in the long run when when you use those supplies and you generate the value of your time, so to say. So I think that
Absolutely.
it's extremely important for people to kind of think forward on league start instead of thinking in the now and all right, I'm just going to chaos spam an item. And it's like, well, if you just use that chaos to go buy something that helps you clear the map faster, all of a sudden you're clearing maps faster, you're going to get more than one chaos back off of that investment. You might get 5 chaos, 6 chaos. Holy crap, by the end of it you're pulling in a divine before you've ever pulled in a divine beforehand, right? Like the time squashes down the faster you do stuff and the more efficiently. That's a big one.
So to compound on to what you're talking about here, one thing I see a lot of people do, a lot of our guildmates do, is they hoard too many items. They hold on to them for way too long. They don't ever list them for sale. They don't have a dump tab is what I like to call it. I like to take several dump tabs and just list them for like 1 chaos, 5 chaos, 10 chaos, and throw stuff in there. And then at least it's on the market. At least you can get those whispers. At least you can get that feedback on if you're way underpriced, way overpriced, anything like that. And it gives you the chance to get some trades going, get some currency flowing, figuring out where the market is on certain things and what you may want to look for. And so just get your items on the market or else they'll never sell. You'll never make any money off of them.
Yep. I have a rotating dump tab value. After I hit a certain point, I cut off the lowest value, I push it up, and I say, okay, if I'm gonna have to stop what I'm doing, I want it to be a certain value. I don't want
Oh, yeah,
to,
me too.
and you just as the league progresses, you change the way you trade, the way you interact with other people, right? I mean, if you're in a position where, hey, I'm gonna go run 50 sanctums in a row and I don't want to do any trades, shut off your trades.
Yep.
There's no harm in shutting off your trades.
It's actually better to shut them off than to not reply because I know a lot of people
Get
that
muted.
if you have the trades up and you just don't ever reply, you get muted. They won't ever see your trades again, ever. League to league to league, that you're just gone. You're deleted from the market. So if there's that high end person who buys a lot of stuff like me or Hive that might come in and buy your 50 divine item, but you haven't responded to our other requests in previous times, we may not ever even see your item. So be sure you're replying to those trades, or just turn them off for a little while.
It doesn't hurt. Like, I like to turn on my trades if I'm not like constantly trading, which is generally a thing that I tend to do. I tend to leave them on all the time. But this league, I'm actually going to experiment a lot more with turning them off. And if I got to get up from the computer or something like that, I'm just going to turn the volume up as loud as I freaking can on my headset. And if I got a message, I'll come back to the computer while I'm doing other things. I think that's a good thing, like a good habit to get into is like, if I'm not blasting like blights, for instance, for blight's actually a really good example. If you're in a blight, you're stuck in there until it's done or until you die.
Yep.
Right? You don't want to be the person that has everything that everybody ever has ever wanted while you're in the middle of a blight, because
Yeah,
getting
that's
the
one of
million
my biggest
messages,
issues
holy
with the
crap.
trade, is that there's so many of those mechanics like blight where you can't leave. You're stuck in that map for 7 minutes, and no one has the patience to wait 7 minutes for a cheap trade. They don't. So I do hope that one day that they incorporate something to fix that, and it is the biggest area of opportunity in Path of Exile to me. And I do hope everyone continues to push for an improvement in the trade experience. If we were just allowed to say yes, accept that trade or whatever, and it has some form of auto completion, or even if you have a one stash tab that people can just buy out of, even without you having to go back to town, it would make this game significantly more enjoyable for the mass community. Now, there are repercussions to that. If you make trade too easy, there will be problems, but I'm not saying make it too easy. I'm just saying improve the current quality of life of trade.
Make it
And
usable.
yeah, because again, I'm a huge blight enjoyer. So I end up later in the league, I have things listed only for multiple divines. I'm not going to do a divine or less trade. I'm just not going to do it. And so I turn all those off. And, because if I get into a blight and I get several whispers in there, I'm just making people upset. So, yes, absolutely. And then let's do some recap points, I guess, and we'll close this out. We have definitely run out of time. So, uh, I'll let you go ahead and recap what we went over real quick, and we'll say adieus.
So, I mean, we introduced ourselves during the podcast, and I kind of started off with the builds highlights. Definitely ED, huge highlight. EA Ballista, Herald of Thunder, of course, my favorite. Definitely some top end builds that we went over. Siege Ballista, Hierophant, RF Inquisitors. I mean, we kind of went over a lot of the starter builds. I mean, a lot of the consistent, strong builds. We talked about tattoos shortly after that. I think that tattoos is the biggest opportunity we have for power creep this league, and I don't think they're going to let us down. I think that they have shown us probably the weakest opportunities. Like, they're like, here's the weakest ones. Yes, you guys are happy, cool. Because when you actually get into it, the shit's crazy. That's my hope. That they're
Yep.
going to just blow
Well,
us
I mean,
away with it.
if we look at what some of the Crucible things allowed to happen,
Yeah.
that exploding totem build was the highest single target build damage we've ever seen.
Yeah.
That was some of the biggest power creep. And then some of those weapons we were able to create were just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And I truly do believe that some of these tattoos that are coming will be that way as well. But it's more on your character. So, people are going to invest a lot of that currency because it's going to be coming out of the market and into your skill tree. So we're going to see a huge shakeup on how the metagame unfolds. So yeah, we went over all kinds of things, everything we wanted to hit. We did not talk at all about the league mechanic. I am really excited about an auto battler format. I love auto battlers. They're some of my favorites out there, and I hope this one's done right. I can't wait to see how it works. Super excited. And yeah, what do you think about the auto battler?
I'm pretty excited, even though I've clearly told people I'm not. I always love to see what Grinding Gear Games does with their league mechanics, because when they said, "Hey guys, we're getting a tower defense in Path," I was like, "No fucking no, we're not." Like that's a joke, right? You guys, like, there's absolutely fucking no way we're getting a tower defense. And bam, we got a tower defense, and I was like, you know what? This is pretty good for like being mixed into an ARPG. It was unexpected. I really enjoyed it. And then, before that, they were like, "Hey guys, we got Pokemon." And I was like, "What? Pokemon?" And they're like, "Yeah, you're going to capture them and then fight them in our arena to get their buff." And I was like, "No shit. Oh, here comes Beastery." So
Yep.
Grinding Gear Games has a pretty good track record, bar maybe 2 leagues, with their league mechanics.
Well, I
And
will say their league mechanics are often more well done than like whole other games that
yeah,
come out.
uh,
It'll
not
blow
to mention
someone's
a
mind.
couple. I don't want to mention the one, but honestly, I think that this league will shadow and potentially even make a whole game that was released recently look like kind of a joke. I mean, I
Yeah,
think
I could see that.
it's got just Grinding Gear Games has just such a reputation at this point for making things that don't sound like they would belong and kind of exceed with them. I think when they take another game, or not another game, but another genre's essence and melt it into the ARPG genre, they do such a unique job with it. You go, that, like, I could feel that was what it was, but like at the same time, I wasn't ready. Sanctum, actually, very good example. I am a huge roguelite nerd. I play so many roguelikes. You guys have no idea. If I'm not playing Path, I'm playing a roguelike or I'm playing an idle game. Like that's literally my trifecta right now. And they took the roguelike genre and smashed it into Path of Exile, and I went, "Holy shit, this is good." Like, it was very enjoyable. The rewards were insanely lucrative. I felt like I was always progressing through it. Sometimes I was frustrated, but that's part of the genre of a roguelike. Sometimes you just get
Absolutely.
destroyed. So going back to
Well,
this
I'm super
league,
excited to how Sanctum is being implemented. How you're going to get a whole floor at a time
oh
now.
my gosh, I
So
don't have to wait to do my
I know.
sanctums.
So you're going to
Oh,
enjoy Sanctums more now than you ever did, most likely.
yeah. I mean, they're making them a lot harder too. So the people that were like, "It was easy," haha. Yeah, it's not going to be as easy. They're adding rare mobs to them, but they're also adding some mitigation, so defenses actually matter. And then they're like, "Hey, by the way, you can't cheese them if they're outside of 100 radius inside your sanctum maps. You can't damage them." That's going to be a
Yep.
big meta shakeup for the poison SRSs and stuff like that. Are they still going to be good? Yes, 100%. I still think that they're going to be like the meta builds from Sanctum are still going to be meta builds in Sanctum. Will it put you in more danger? Definitely. I think it's fine. It's acceptable. People were, kind of getting a little over the change. I think it's acceptable. It's fine. People that enjoyed Sanctum are still going to enjoy Sanctum. People that don't enjoy Sanctum are going to be able to sell their freaking Sanctums to other people. Hey, more currency in the freaking field, guys. Like, there's
Absolutely.
nothing
Selling
to
to me.
hate there. We're not being forced to do it, and we get to sell it to other people. Stock up 50 of them, go sell them on TFT, profit. You know, but going back to what I think on this league mechanic is, I think that it's going to be extremely complex. It's giving me the feeling of harvest building. I think that's, definitely going to be a difficult thing. I think that it's going to be fun to play, but it's going to be hard for a lot of people to learn. I'm looking forward to the videos in order to really suss it out, figure out how we're going to go about it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to learn everything about all the new changes, all the new stuff that's coming. The league mechanic itself, I do think is going to be lots of fun. I am excited to go back into Sanctum again, um, and I'm excited to see how our builds turn out. And I really hope that we're able to put together a couple builds. You and I and our guild can put together some fun stuff to put out there and see how people like it. Let's go out there and break the game.
Yes.
And so yeah, if y'all like this kind of content, thank you so much for tuning in. And we want to hear what you think your league experience looks like. Any tips and tricks that you want to share with other people. Anything you want us to do in future episodes. And what's your outro there, Hive?
Just stay hungry, keep fishing for it, guys. Yes, fishing is in the game. I like to thank you guys for just sitting here and
Oh
listening
well,
to
now we're
us.
banned.
Yeah, we're banned. Anyway, I'd like to thank you guys for sitting here and listening to us. It's definitely something that I'm new to. I don't know about fish, but again,
Oh yeah.
I'd like to keep this going. Give us some feedback, and maybe we can add some more of our guild members here when they're not as shy, and potentially bring in other people to
That'd be
bounce
amazing.
ideas off of. And if there's anybody that you guys think would be fun to have around, or bring them in as a special guest, just let us know, and I can always reach out.
All right. Well, great. I guess that wraps it up, and we'll hope to talk to y'all soon.